All right, this video is for students taking CMIT 386 who also have an Apple Silicon chip. So that would be the M1, M2, or M3. In order to get your virtualized environment set up, you're gonna have to open up a web browser and head over to https://mac.getutm.app. And once you browse to that website, you have two options. You can download the free UTM software, or you can click on the Mac App Store, which will in turn launch the Mac App Store on your Mac. And you have the option to support the author by paying $10, or again, you can just download the free version right here. Then you're going to want to install that software on your Mac. The next thing you're going to want to do is get the Kali Linux and Metasploitable QCal2 files from your professor. So for my directory structure, I have my Kali with OpenVAS and Metasploitable as follows. So if I click on the first folder, the second folder, and then the data folder, you will see my Kali with OpenVAS QCal2. I'm going to need this in a moment. Going back to my Metasploitable, if I click on the directory structure, once again going into data, I've got my Metasploitable QCal2 file. Once again, you're going to have to reach out to your professor to get those, download them, and save them to your hard drive. All right, now that we've downloaded the two virtual machine files in the QCal2 format, we've installed UTM. If you go ahead and launch it, you'll be presented with an interface exactly like this or very similar. The first thing you're going to want to do is select Create a New Virtual Machine. We're then going to select Emulate. We're going to select Other. We're going to check Skip ISO Boot and select Continue. I'm going to change my memory to 512 and I'm going to use the default CPU cores. I will select Continue. I'm going to change 64 to 2, and I'm going to select Continue. I'm going to select Continue again, and I'm going to change the virtual machine to Metasploitable. I'm going to check Open VM Settings, very important, and I'm going to select Save. Now, I'm going to select QEMU, and I will uncheck the UEFI boot. I'm going to select Network, and I'm going to change Shared Network to Host Only. I'm going to scroll down, select IDE Drive. I will select Delete. I will select Delete again to confirm. I will select New, select Import. Navigate to where your QCal2 file is located. Again, this is Metasploitable 2. Select it. Select Open, select Save, and when prompted, we will select Play. Metasploitable 2 will now install. Once Metasploitable is finished installing, you'll be presented with the logon screen whereby the username is MSFadmin and the password is MSFadmin. Go ahead and log on, and then we're going to set up the network interface card. All right, now that we have Metasploitable installed within our UTM, we need to configure it per the instructions on the web page. And what those instructions say is that for our victim machine, it should have the IP address of 10 dot, whatever red team we're assigned to, dot, whatever student number we are, .100. So I'm going to go ahead in here and open up the terminal, and I'm going to perform a cat on space/etsy/network/interfaces. When I hit enter, it will tell me what the current configuration is of the IP address. Clearly, I need to change this to 10 dot whatever my red team is, dot whatever my student is, dot 100. So how do we do that? Well, we can use gedit space/etsy/network/interfaces. When we hit enter, we'll be able to make those changes. Now, what you're going to see is that I'm going to pipe in a notional address. All right, so 10.12.15.100. Now, when I go to save this, I am probably going to get an error. And I do. So how do I overcome this error? Well, I'm going to select cancel. I'm going to X out, close without saving. Now, I'm going to type the same command, but at the beginning, I'm going to type sudo space gedit space/etsy/network/interfaces. When gedit appears, now I can make the changes. Again, this is a notional IP address as part of the demonstration. You have to input yours accordingly. Now, if I go to save, it takes. I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm going to close out of my terminal. My Metasploitable victim host is now properly configured. All right, now that we've set up Metasploitable, which again was our victim machine, we need to set up our attack machine, which is going to be Kali Linux. And we're going to do so very similar. So I'm going to click on the plus up here with the UTM. I'm going to select emulate. I'm going to select other. I'm going to select skip ISO boot and select continue. I'm going to maintain the defaults here. I'm going to select continue. I'm going to change 64 to 20. Select continue. I'm going to maintain the defaults and select continue. And I'm going to change the name to Kali Linux, and I'm going to select Open VM Settings, then select Save. Now, I'm going to go select QEMU, uncheck UEFI boot. I'm going to select Network, change it from Shared Network to Host Only. I'm going to scroll down to IDE Drive, delete, confirm it by selecting delete again. I'm going to select New, Import, and I'm going to navigate to where exactly the specific Kali QCal2 folder and file exists. When I find it, I'm going to select Open, select Save. Now, this VM is much larger and is going to take a little bit more time to run depending on your system and the configuration. So I'm going to pause the video and speed it up to when we get to the next page. Just be patient as it's installing. Finished, I'm going to select play, and you're going to note that another window pops up. We're going to select install Kali Linux, and it's going to go through the process, walking us through step by step. I'm going to select all of the defaults as we continue. I'm going to pause the video. Once you have it installed, after going through all of the defaults, come back and we're going to set up the IP and configure it according to the instructions as they're in class. Now, you will probably get a blank screen. You have to be patient as this takes a while to load. The system is set up. We have to authenticate with the appropriate username and password. That would be root for the username and root backwards, which is TOOR, as the password. Go ahead and select sign in, and give it some time as it loads. I'm going to pause the video and we'll come back and configure the IP address according to the instructions in class. Okay, my system is loaded, and remember, it's going to be the speed by which the amount of resources you provided. So the next thing we need to do is open up a terminal window. You will notice that my system is a little bit slower because I didn't assign it as much resources. Now, per the instructions of the attack machine, again, we're going to be setting up our IP address. This time it will be 10.redteam.student.50 for our attack machine. In order to do that, we're going to use leafpad space/etsy/network/interfaces. And just like before, we will be given the option to configure the address as appropriate. Again, this is notional. You will use 10.yourredteam.yourstudent.50. Make sure you save and then close out. I am going to reset the system by typing INIT space 6 and hitting enter. Okay, once you have both systems installed, configured, now it's time to test to ensure that they are properly communicating with one another. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a terminal on my victim Metasploitable machine. I'm going to move that over. I'm going to perform an ifconfig. There is the IP address of the victim, exactly as I configured it. I'm going to come over to my Kali Linux and open up a terminal window. Now remember, the Kali Linux is going to be only as fast as the resources you have dedicated to it. Once again, I'm going to type ifconfig, and I have my 10, 12, 15, 50. So the first thing I'm going to do is ping the victim, which is 10.12.15.100, and I can in fact communicate. All right, so let's go ahead and end that. Now I'm going to come over to the victim or the Metasploitable, and I'm going to ping the attack machine, 10.12.15.50, and in fact, I can communicate between the two. So that is how you set up your system via UTM for all of those using Apple Silicon. That's again M1, M2, or M3 chips at the time of this recording.